Good morning, everybody. So we're in the fifth and final week of our first series for the fall. We've been calling Everything Must Go. Next week, we're going to begin a new series called Pilgrims of Hope. It's all about walking and growing in hope. What I really believe is the most important habit of mind and heart for a Christian to have. Hope is so important for us. Well, it's going to be an inspiring series. It's really the perfect opportunity as well to invite a friend or family member who doesn't have a church to come join us. Oh, for the past several weeks, in this first series, we've been talking about money and possessions. Our stuff is part of our life. We need it, and we cannot escape it, but perhaps for that very reason, as I've been saying, we so often attach negative emotions to our stuff, don't we? Worry, stress, guilt, jealousy. Those emotions can so easily creep in when it comes to thinking about money, possessions, finances. Jesus understood money and its place in our life. He wants us to get this right. That's why he taught about it so often, more than any other topic. Why? Because he knows how much stress and tension money can cause in our lives, in our relationships. Because he knows how easily worry and concern about our possessions can just dominate our thoughts and direct our lives. Because he knows how love for mammon can hold our hearts. Jesus understood the real value of money, the proper place it should have. So a few weeks ago, we looked at the fact that we are stewards. We're stewards. Our material possessions we hold in our hands don't really belong to us. They belong to God. So Jesus encourages us to use God's stuff in our so-called strategic best interest by investing in people. Giving has eternal value, while money in and of itself does not have eternal value. Well, by the way, if you've missed any part of this series, any one of the messages, or if you know somebody who might need to hear this message, you can always find the replays of the message on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. It's a great place to share. So as we wrap up today, I want to look now to the future. To the future. Let me ask you a question. When you think about your financial future, your future with regard to money and stuff, what are you thinking about? What thoughts come to mind? I think there are kind of two extreme responses here, thinking about the future. One is filled with fear and anxiety. Will I have enough? Will I have enough for my loved ones? And then there's the other extreme, which I would describe as sort of wishful thinking. I just hope it all works out somehow. Maybe I'll win the lottery. Wishful thinking. So neither of those extreme responses are helpful. Instead, God invites us both to plan for our future and to trust in Him and trust Him to be part of that future. So God has a vision. He has a vision for the entire of our lives, including how we manage our stuff. And my hope today is to convince you of that truth, as well as to challenge you to engage in God's vision for you. The book of Proverbs tells us this, one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible. Where there is no vision, the people perish. When we have no vision for our lives, we struggle. But when we embrace vision, especially God's vision, we thrive. As followers of Christ, we want to grab hold of God's vision for the whole of our lives, including regarding our money and possession. So, to see what this looks like, I want to turn to the excerpt that we heard in our first reading today from a book in the Bible called Habakkuk, the prophet Habakkuk. I love this passage because it casts a hopeful vision for anything when we involve God. So Habakkuk, who's he? He's a prophet who lived about 600 years before Christ. It was a time not unlike our time, of violence, unrest, and turmoil. Habakkuk looked at all the problems around him, and they were not positive thoughts. He complained to God. So listen to his prayer. He says, "How long, O Lord? I cry for help, but you do not listen. I cry out to you, violence, but you do not intervene. Why do you let me see ruin? Why must I look at misery? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and clamorous discord." Well, that's a cry of complaint. None of us ever complain here, do we? Habakkuk is honest with God. And you know what? It's okay to be honest with God in prayer. God can handle our complaints. In fact, some people might even pray more if you turn your complaints into prayer, especially if you're watching the Giants this afternoon. Now, here's hope. Anyway, you know, there are problems in the world. There are problems in the world that bother us deeply. Violence in our schools, in our churches, political discord, a culture of death, concern about the future of our country and our world, concern about our children. When we notice these problems, it's natural to feel so frustrated. But notice here, Habakkuk doesn't stay in his complaint. He doesn't stay there. Go to the beginning of chapter 2, and he says this: "I will stand at my guard post, and I will station myself upon the rampart. I will keep watch to see what he will say to me, and what answer he will give to my complaint." Well, Habakkuk, you could say, stubbornly stands at his post. He positions himself to hear from God. He keeps watch with an expectation that God's going to answer him. That's a good way to pray, because as we see, God does answer him. We then hear, "Then the Lord answered me and said, write down the vision clearly upon the tablets, so that one can read it readily." God says, "I have a vision for you. I want you to write it down." Why? Write it down so you're committed to it. Write it down so you don't forget it. Write it down so you can carry it wherever you go. Write it down so when you see God fulfill the vision, your faith will increase. Well, then God adds this: the vision still has its time, presses on to fulfillment, and will not disappoint. If it delays, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not be late. In other words, if we listen, we're patient, we lean into God, if we lean into trusting in him, God's vision for our lives, my friends, and his time will come to fulfillment. And so, what might God's vision for your finances, your material things, your possessions look like? That answer will be different for everyone. I think that if I heard this message when I was a teenager or in my 20s, it would have been so beneficial to me. And then there's some of you maybe are senior citizens, and this is a message you can pass on to your children and grandchildren to know. It's for children as well. Let me offer 3 different possibilities of what God's vision for your money, your finances, your possessions could be. First, it could be a vision of freedom from debt. Maybe you're weighed down right now by debt, student loans, credit cards, car payments, a mortgage. You're behind. Maybe you've spent yourself into a place where you have no so-called financial margin or any breathing room. You're going check to check. And that creates, of course, stress, tension, maybe even conflict in your marriage or your relationships. Perhaps God's vision for you is freedom from debt and a firm financial footing in the future. If that's you, no shame, no judgment. You know, many people have been there, and they've come out on the other side. What's past is past. But now you can step into God's vision for freedom. And we want to help you, and not just with our prayers. So in a few months, as we advertised a couple weeks ago, we're offering something here at St. John's called Financial Peace University. It's a 9-week class on personal finances. So stop by the welcoming desk after Mass to learn more about that. So that's one vision, one possibility. Here's a second vision. It could be about a lifestyle of simplicity. There are some of you who already have some financial margin in your life, but you feel maybe God calling you to take another step, to live more with simplicity. Not poverty, simplicity. A lifestyle that maybe echoes the spirit of St. Francis of Assisi or Mother Teresa. And maybe that means for you simplifying your possessions, simplifying your eating habits, simplifying your entertainment choices, or any other number of things. For some, that might even mean this: shifting careers, taking on a new vocation, leaving a higher paying job to serve in a nonprofit or to serve in ministry. I can look at some of our staff members here. They have done exactly that. Believe me, they didn't come to work for the church because of the money. They did it to follow God's vision, His calling of them. So that's another possibility. Here's a third one. Maybe your vision is about a legacy of generosity. Still, others of you are financially comfortable, or you're on track to be so. You're good with money. You know how to earn, how to save, how to spend wisely. But God may be asking you, what legacy are you going to leave? Your ability with money could establish a legacy, and not just for your family, but also for the wider community, for the church. And the best way to do this is to look at what faith-based charities or causes stir your heart. What stirs your heart? Write that down. Write what legacy God might be calling you to build. So this week, my homework for everyone is to write down the vision. Ask God about His vision for your finances. Write down, what would it feel like to be free from debt? Write down, what would it feel like to embrace simplicity and give away more? Write down what it would feel like to shape a legacy for God's kingdom. Remember Habakkuk's words here. The vision will surely come. It will not be late. Write it down. Keep it with you. Keep it in a place where you'll see it. Before we close today, let me share another opportunity as we move forward into our next series, Pilgrims of Hope. You know, the idea of this upcoming series is that we walk the journey of discipleship together as followers of Christ. We're together. So today we're inviting people to check out our small groups. Small groups are a safe space where you can find others on the same discipleship path as you. You know, our world today is so isolated. So many people are struggling and they're alone. And I know in my own small group, it's such an incredible place where we can be vulnerable, honest, encouraging, and helpful to one another with everything, including with things like money and finances. The small groups are a powerful way for you to grow in your relationship with Christ. So you can sign up for one at the side tables after Mass and just try it out. We invite you for the new series. Well, here's the bottom line that we wrap up today. Getting right with regard to our money and stuff isn't just about budgets and bank accounts. It's about discipleship. How we follow Jesus goes hand in hand with how we handle our possession. Our stuff isn't separate from our faith. It's part of it. And when we invite God's vision into our dealings with the things of this world, well, everything changes. Amen.